All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
You're listening to Make It, the indie film podcast.
All right, so get this. Today we are going deep, really deep into the life of Dick Gregory.
A man who, I think it's safe to say, was way more than just a comedian.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're going way beyond the stage, talking about his impact on like everything, health, technology, even social justice.
And honestly, his message, it feels more relevant now than ever.
Absolutely. And we are so lucky to have this interview with his son, Dr. Christian Gregory, to help us uncover it all.
Talk about an incredible resource.
Seriously, his insights are just mind-blowing.
So let's just jump right in. Christian starts by painting this picture of his childhood, growing up on a 100-acre farm with 9 siblings.
Wow, a big family.
Yeah, a huge family.
And not just any farm, right?
Yeah.
Dick Gregory used it for something pretty unexpected, a drug detox center.
Yeah, he was helping celebrities and athletes kick their addictions.
Oh, wow. So not your average farm life.
No, not at all. And what's really interesting is that Dick didn't rely on those like traditional methods. He used stuff like pink Himalayan sea salt soaks and like personalized counseling.
Yeah.
That's wild. So ahead of its time. But okay, 10 kids in a detox center. How did he even find time for family? Like, was it even possible to be a good dad with all that going on?
Well, Christian really emphasizes that it was all about quality over quantity with his dad.
That makes sense.
Late night talks, impromptu, bursts of entertainment. He really made those moments count.
I love that. Not the typical dad stuff.
No, definitely not. And their relationship, it really changed when Christian went to college.
Oh, yeah. All the Gregory kids had to attend HBCUs, right?
Yep. And Dick Gregory had this unique agreement with each school.
What was it?
He'd lecture there every semester, and in return, they took care of his kids.
Wow, that's a win-win. So he stayed connected with his kids.
Yeah.
A&D shared his wisdom with a whole new generation. Smart.
Yeah, super smart. And it was during this time that their relationship shifted. They became more like peers.
Friends.
Yeah, basically. And Christian even remembers the first time he ever heard his dad swear. It was during this period. And honestly, he was kind of delighted by it.
Hmm?
Yeah, it was like this sign that their relationship was becoming more, open and honest.
I get that. Makes you wonder, though, was this more relaxed side of Dick Gregory something that, we missed out on in his public persona?
Yeah.
I mean, he was famous for keeping his comedy clean, never swearing on stage.
You're so right. There was this contrast. And Christian actually says that some of his dad's best material came out in those unguarded moments, just at home with family.
That's so interesting how there's always more to the story, right?
Yeah.
Especially with someone like Dick Gregory. Okay, so we've talked about family life, but let's move on to activism, because Dick Gregory's impact, it went way beyond just making people laugh. We're talking about transcending generations with his activism.
Absolutely. And there's this story Christian tells about a Nike commercial featuring his dad.
Okay.
And this commercial, it sparked all these really powerful dinner table conversations about activism and legacy.
Oh, wow. So it's like this catalyst for deeper discussions within the family.
Exactly. It makes you think about the ripple effect of activism, right? How one person's actions can inspire others to step up too.
Oh, for sure. And Christian actually talks about how platforms like ours even play a role in that. Like giving figures like Dick Gregory a wider reach, even inspiring contemporary comedians like, get this, Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, after receiving the Mark Twain Prize, Eddie Murphy said he spent weeks watching Dick Gregory's routines on YouTube, just to prepare for his own return to comedy.
No way. Eddie Murphy was inspired by Dick Gregory.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I had no idea. Okay, but beyond these bigger platforms and legacies, there's also the personal connections, the little things that make a difference.
Yeah.
Christian tells this really heartwarming story about Rob Schneider. It reveals this amazing act of kindness within Hollywood.
So Rob Schneider cast Dick Gregory in his film The Hot Chick. It was a pretty minor role,
right?
But it let Dick reactivate his Screen Actors Guild insurance, which was super important for his healthcare at that age.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Huge for anyone, but especially back then.
Totally. And Rob, he found out that the insurance had helped Dick and his wife Lillian cover some major medical expenses. So even though he didn't have to, he brought Dick back to film an extra scene just so he could qualify for another year of coverage.
Wow, that's a true friend. It just shows you that there is real compassion even in a place like Hollywood.
Definitely. And speaking of Dick Gregory's multifaceted life, there's so much to explore beyond just his comedy. He was involved in so many things. Did you know that he was actually considered for a role in Black Panther?
Really? No way. Now I need to know more.
Yeah, and he was also in talks for a regular role on Boardwalk Empire.
Wow, what happened?
The script was just too dialogue heavy, which, didn't really suit his improvisational style.
True, I can see that. He was known for his wit and those off-the-cuff remarks. So he did a lot of things, but there's one film role he did take on that I want to highlight. It was a cameo in The Leisure Seeker with Helen Mirren and Donald Sutherland.
He plays Helen Mirren's first boyfriend, which it leads to some hilarious tension with Donald Sutherland's character.
Oh, I bet. Dick Gregory just had this incredible charisma. He could captivate any audience, no matter how big or small the role was.
Oh, absolutely. And it's important to remember that his impact wasn't just limited to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Christian actually talks about how his father's DNA is present in all these movements championing fairness, justice, and equality.
Even when he wasn't in the spotlight.
Exactly. Think about his cross-country runs. He endured some serious physical hardships just to bring attention to his beliefs.
Yeah, that takes real dedication, putting your body on the line like that.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it shows this other side of him, too, one that contrasts with his polished public image.
For sure, reminds us that real change often requires real sacrifice.
Now get this, Dick Gregory, the tech enthusiast, I bet most people don't see that coming.
Yeah, the comedian activist was also a techie.
Yeah, and he was super forward thinking about technology, way ahead of his time.
Okay, like how?
Well, for starters, he was driving electric cars long before they were cool. He saw their potential when most people were still stuck on gas guzzlers.
So he basically predicted the electric car boom.
Basically, he was ahead of the curve on that one. And it wasn't just about predicting things like emojis. It was more about his deep understanding of how technology was going to impact society.
That was pretty impressive. But it makes you wonder, how did he arrive at these insights? Was it his understanding of human nature or just a knack for seeing the bigger picture?
Probably a bit of both. He had this unique way of connecting the dots and anticipating trends. But what's funny is, while he was a visionary in many ways, he also struggled with some basic tech stuff. He had a hard time using smartphones and ordering Ubers.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
It just goes to show that even brilliant minds can have their tech blind spots. Makes him seem more human, right?
Totally. And speaking of sharing wisdom, Christian offers some really valuable advice for aspiring creatives. Stuff he learned from both his dad and his own experiences in Hollywood.
Okay, I'm all ears.
He really emphasizes understanding intellectual property rights, especially in the digital age.
You mean copywriting your work and all that?
Exactly. He says, every keystroke, every video clip, it all has value. Creators need to protect their stuff. He actually uses the example of that famous selfie Ellen DeGeneres took at the Oscars.
Oh, yeah, the one with all the celebrities?
Well, it was Bradley Cooper who actually took the picture using Ellen's phone.
Oh, right, I remember that.
And because of that, he owns the rights to the image.
Whoa, so the person who clicks the button owns the rights, even if it's not their device. That's wild.
Yeah, digital ownership can be tricky.
For sure. So what else does Christian have to say about navigating this digital world?
He also touches upon cryptocurrency. He's a little cautious about it, but he loves the idea of blockchain technology, for securing ownership, particularly when it comes to creative work.
So he sees the potential of the tech beyond just digital currency. It's all about protecting those creative rights.
Exactly. And he even mentions a company that's working on attaching NFTs to physical property, basically creating a digital deed for your phone or even the images on it.
Whoa, now that's getting futuristic. NFTs for everything. What's next?
Right. It really shows how the whole concept of ownership is changing with technology.
True. And Christian brings up another good point about the challenges of building independent platforms. He uses Donald Trump's struggles as an example.
You mean with his whole social media platform thing?
Yeah, it didn't really take off, did it?
Nope. And Christian's takeaway is basically that creating and sustaining a successful platform is really, really hard.
even for someone with a massive following like Trump.
Even then, it shows how important strategic partnerships are. You can't just go it alone.
Interesting. Okay, so we've covered a lot: family, activism, legacy, tech, and even a little bit of Hollywood. What stood out to you most from this first part of Christian's interview?
It's amazing how Dick Gregory managed to blend all these different aspects of his life. Comedy, activism, technology, health. He wasn't just one thing, he was everything.
He's a walking contradiction.
Yeah.
The best way possible.
Exactly. A comedian who fought for social justice, a tech enthusiast who embraced tradition, a health advocate who never lost sight of his humanity.
It's inspiring, honestly. He shows us that we don't have to fit into any one box.
Right. And that's a message that I think resonates with everyone.
Totally. I'm ready to hear what else Christian has to say. Let's jump into the next part of this interview.
Let's do it.
You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. Obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors, but they take time and energy, pulling you away from building and shipping. That's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups get audit-ready and build a strong security foundation, quickly and painlessly. Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. The platform connects you with trusted experts to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. So whether you're closing your first deal or gearing up for growth, Vanta makes compliance easy. Join over 8,000 companies, including Y Combinator and Techstar startups who trust Vanta. For a limited time, get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/simplify. That's VANTA.com/simplify for $1,000 off.
So we left off talking about how Dick Gregory was like this incredible mix of everything: comedian, activist, tech enthusiast, health guru. It's amazing how he brought all those pieces together.
Yeah, he really defied categorization.
He did. And Christian talks about how his dad had this like almost Zen-like approach to life.
Yeah.
And how that really influenced his own perspective. It seems like finding peace amidst chaos was a big part of who Dick Gregory was.
It really was. And this brings us to the idea of legacy, which comes up a lot in Christian's interview.
Legacy. Like, what did Dick Gregory leave behind?
Right, but it's not about fame or fortune. It's about the impact you have on other people, the values you pass down.
Makes sense. So, like, making a difference, even in small ways.
Exactly. And Christian actually asks this really interesting question.
Yeah?
What is Dick Gregory's greatest contribution?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, he did so.
I know, right? He was a comedian, activist, author, health advocate. But in the end, Christian's answer is actually pretty simple.
Okay, I'm curious.
He says it was his dad's dedication to health and wellness.
Really? That's it?
Yeah. It might seem straightforward, but there's a really deep message there.
Okay, I see it. It's about taking care of ourselves so we can take care of each other.
Right, exactly. It's about that interconnectedness that was so central to Dick Gregory's whole philosophy.
It ties back into that idea of legacy, too, how our choices ripple outward and impact future generations.
It all comes full circle. And, we talked about his veganism earlier. He really was ahead of his time on that.
Totally. Decades before it was trendy.
He was. And for him, it was more than just diet. It was a reflection of his values.
Like how so?
Well, he saw this link between personal health and social justice.
Interesting. Can you explain that a little more?
Sure. He felt that choosing a plant-based lifestyle was a way to take a stand against animal cruelty and promote a more sustainable way of living.
It's like he was paving the way for the whole vegan movement we see today. Pretty incredible.
Absolutely. But Christian does point out that while veganism has become more popular, it's still taboo in some communities.
Yeah, there are definitely cultural and social barriers that can make it hard to embrace a plant-based lifestyle.
For sure. And that's a good reminder that progress isn't always linear, Different communities face different challenges.
It's about meeting people where they are.
Absolutely. So we've talked about family, activism, legacy, technology, even health. It's amazing how all these pieces fit together in Dick Gregory's life.
I know, right? He was a comedian who used his platform for social justice, a tech enthusiast who valued tradition, a health advocate who never lost sight of his humanity.
He really was a unique individual, a true original.
He was, and he shows us that we don't have to fit in any one box. We can be complex and still find joy in the journey.
I love that. I'm excited to hear what else Christian has to say in the final part of our deep dive.
Me too. Let's go. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Dick Gregory's life and legacy. And wow, I gotta say, I'm so inspired by what we've learned so far.
It's been a wild ride, right? From his unique childhood and groundbreaking comedy to his unwavering activism and his ahead of the curve views, Dick Gregory was a true original.
Definitely. And in this last part of Christian's interview, there are a couple more things that really stood out to me.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, Christian talks about his dad's incredible foresight, and it's not just about him predicting things like emojis, It's deeper than that. It's about understanding how technology was going to impact society as a whole.
Totally. He wasn't just throwing darts at a board. He was analyzing trends and connecting the dots in a way that few others could.
Exactly. He was able to see the big picture.
Right. And we talked about his early adoption of electric vehicles. That's a perfect example.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He was driving electric cars way back when they were considered a novelty.
Exactly. And most people thought they were impractical.
But he saw their potential.
He did. And now look, electric cars are everywhere.
It's mind-blowing how people like Dick Gregory can see the future unfolding before it even happens.
Right. Makes you wonder what else he might have predicted.
Totally. And I think his deep understanding of human behavior and his willingness to challenge the status quo played a big part in that.
Absolutely. He had this unique ability to see what others missed.
Yeah, he was a comedian, an activist, and a tech enthusiast all rolled into one.
A true Renaissance man.
So shifting gears a bit, Christian also talks about mentorship and how his relationship with his dad evolved into something really special.
Oh, yeah. They learned from each other and challenged each other.
Right. It wasn't just a one-way street.
And it really highlights how we can learn from people of all ages and backgrounds.
Even our parents.
Especially our parents.
They do have a lot of experience.
They do. And sometimes the best lessons come from the most unexpected sources.
So true. Speaking of valuable lessons, Christian also talks about the importance of digital literacy, especially for creators.
Oh, yeah. Protecting your work in the digital age is so important.
It's easy to forget about that stuff with social media being so fast-paced.
Totally. We're all becoming mini media moguls without even realizing it.
That's a good point. So what's Christian's advice?
He says, educate yourself about intellectual property law, know your rights.
Basically, learn the language of digital ownership.
Right. Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with one final thought-provoking question from Christian's interview.
Okay, I'm listening.
He asks, what's the one thing you wish people knew about your father?
That's a tough one. I'm sure there's so many things.
Well, Christian's answer is really interesting. He says that people often focus on the black and white aspects of Dick Gregory's life. His comedy, his activism, his fight for racial justice.
But there was more to him than that, right?
Way more. He was a complex person with a wide range of interests and passions.
I think that's something we often forget about people, especially public figures.
We tend to put them in boxes.
And Dick Gregory was anything but a box. He embraced his complexities, and he encouraged others to do the same.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's remember Dick Gregory's words. Just because they say it's impossible doesn't make it impossible.
What a powerful message to end on. Dick Gregory was a true trailblazer, someone who defied expectations and used his voice to inspire generations. He was a comedian, an activist, a father, a thinker, and so much more. Hopefully this deep dive has given you a new appreciation for his legacy and inspired you to embrace your own unique path, follow your curiosity, and make your mark on the world. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey.
Hey everybody, Chris here. Before you go, if you enjoy our work and want to support what we do at Make It, please subscribe to the Make It podcast channel on YouTube and rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have terrific tees, hoodies, hats, and more at cottonbureau.com. Just search for the Make It podcast and our store will come right up. If you have feedback for us, email us at contact@bonsai.film. Our insider newsletter, Indie Insights, is available at www.bonsai.film/subscribe. And you can also follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and X at _MakeItPodcast. Until next time, and on behalf of the team at Make It, be better, be creative, be engaged, and thank you for listening.